This video was selected for release this month by my doll faces and Pop Tarts over on Patreon. Much love to you as always. As a witch, your power shows up in 100 different ways. You can see it when a spell works, and it dawns on you that your desire has danced through the door you created for it and now exists in your material reality. But you can also see it when you simply spend time at your altar and feel moved, stabilised, inspired, or suddenly able to finish what you started because you've accessed the practices you trust and the concepts that inspire you. And when you spend time in nature, reconnecting with the fact that you're a part of it and that you are its lifelong student. Your power shows up when you lean into it during your challenges and you find that it holds you for as long as you need it to. It shows up when you put your tools into action, combining them with your personal outlook for undeniable results. A witch feels their power when they use it to be brave enough to say what needs to be said and do what needs to be done. A witch feels their power whenever they surrender to being awe-inspired beyond words. When you receive the signs that you've been waiting for, when the gods return your phone calls. When was the last time your power showed up for you as a witch? And did you remember to truly honour that and to feel grateful for it in that moment? Hello, my little dreamboats. Welcome back to my channel. Today you are with me in my blanket fort. Every so often I need to make a blanket fort for that kind of home temple vibe. And I thought I would bring my microphone in here and my stand and ask you to join me for some witchy chats. This is going to be a witchy vlog. It was what my patrons requested, and I'm really grateful to them for requesting it from me, because I think I've always wanted to have kind of like a homely feel on my channel, but I do get into a lot of information giving and a lot of sort of like giving you ideas and journal prompts and instructional stuff, and just sort of drawing from my knowledge and understanding as a spiritual counselor and a witchcraft mentor. And sometimes it's just nice to be a witch with you and kind of just, you know, get a little bit comfortable, drop the shoulders a little bit, stop worrying so much about the presentation, and just be in the moment of sharing my witchcraft with you. So welcome into my blanket fort. I would like to talk to you about a few things that are going on in my path right now that are really interesting me and giving me a cause to reflect or cause to celebrate. The first thing I want to say about what's going on in my path recently is that me and my matron goddess Hel are so back. We are so back. And if anybody is confused by that and you're like, where did you guys go? What do you mean you're back? I will tell you, in 2022, my matron and I parted ways for about 1.5 years. I mean, I knew she was there and I knew that the connection was still there. And I never for a moment doubted that that connection was going anywhere, but we needed to kind of like stop working with each other for quite some time. And I trusted that wisdom. And I knew that that was something that had been kind of like silently agreed upon. And I'm not going to go into the massive ins and outs of why that is, other than to say to you guys that I dealt with a major, unexpected, tragic bereavement in 2022. I am still feeling the reverberations of that bereavement, and I will be for the rest of my life. There is no doubt about it. My matron goddess is Hel, the Norse goddess of the underworld. Obviously, she is a death deity. She is an underworld deity. And so for that reason, there was like a natural pause. And some of you may be thinking, well, I went through a bereavement, or I went through some kind of, very intimate and traumatizing encounter with death, and I'm fine with my death deity or underworld being, and that's fine. But for me and she, it wasn't going to work that way. So it's been a gradual coming back since then. I think we sort of reconnected again late 2023. I think I'd have to go back through my notes. And it was a really joyful reunion. But I would say that it's been a slow pace to get us back to cooking on gas in the way that I always dreamed we would before 2022 befell me. And it's really come back. So I want to share with you a little bit about that. First of all, I want to say that I did some major channeling and rune work with Hel last night, and it was tip top, grade A, top shelf, top banana witching. And this is the kind of thing that I love. I love to go to the hell altar and I love to just be in devotion, you know, write down my devotion, go through the prayer beads. I have a couple of custom made sets of prayer beads. I have 3 actually, 2 that were custom made for my work with hell and 1 that was made for me as sort of a chaos witch rosary that I commandeered for the purpose as well of working with hell and just really being with her energy, connecting with her as a mirror of what is inside me that I want to bring to the surface and things I want to be exploring and stuff like that. So I love all that. And then I love to get into like communing and utilizing the runes and really getting on the hell wavelength, surfing the hell vibration and feeling like there is a real closeness and there is a real sense of purpose and the unfolding of a communication, a conversation between myself and this incredible being that has been there as a presence consciously in my life anyway since 2011. So yeah, it's a really, really powerful process. And let me show you the fruits of my labor. I mean, obviously this is not the fruits of my labor, but this is what happens. So this is the second of these books that I've had. You can see that there is a beautiful image of hell on the front there. This is the second of these books that I've had for my channeling work and my readings. And this is what I did last night with her. 14 pages of rune work and channeling. So lots to go over, lots to consider and think about. I went really in depth. I had a fair few things that I really wanted to commune with her on last night, and I wanted to connect and I wanted to really feel like I'm being given this gorgeous, sumptuous guidance. It was like a feast that was laid out before me. It was so powerful. And I worked with my favorite set of runes. This was made by this set of runes. They're resin runes and they were made by Sparkle Divine Tarot. I can't remember when I bought this set, but I remember they didn't come in this box, by the way. I just put them in this box when they arrived. I remember seeing them somewhere on Sparkle Divine's Instagram. I don't think Sparkle Divine has social medias up at the moment, but they're just really glitzy, beautiful, rainbow. So they're sort of like rainbow opal style resin with the gold on them. She made quite a few different sets of them. She made kind of like a see-through one with like flowers inside it and stuff, but I went for the kind of like rainbow opal vibe. I don't know how well you can see that, but it's, look at that. Come on now. Ugh, so beautiful. So yeah, I love this set. And it was just beautiful, you know, glinting in the light. One thing that I want to say about whenever you're ready for a big commune with a being, whenever you're ready to really, really hook up and get into it and start to get those answers and receive that wisdom, yes, to be in devotion, but also to be in receipt of wisdom that you're really going to put into your life, is that if you don't know when is a good time to do that and you don't know how to do that, first of all, I can let you know that you can ask the being themselves, you know, whether or not it's a good time. And that's what I did yesterday. Yesterday, I had sort of quite a few different things weighing on me. There's a couple of decisions that I have to make professionally about contracts and things of that nature. There's stuff going on with my loved ones at the moment where I'm playing very much a supporting role and the role of listening helper, but also really trying to make sure that I put forth my points of view, etc. There's some stuff going on in relation to my physical health and wellness. I'm struggling with some issues right now. I don't want you to worry, but it's taxing on my physical being what is going on with me. It's a lot of reproductive stuff and whatnot. Right now, I have a few different things on my mind, and I didn't want to just feel like I'm throwing something at the wall and seeing what sticks, or I'm kind of like coming to her in a state of frantic desperation or insistence upon answers. So I really wanted to make sure that I was coming to it from a place of being open to be in receipt of wisdom. So I asked her. I just sat at my altar yesterday afternoon between clients. And I just opened up my book that I use to record the communications between us. I don't always do that at the time of being in communion, but very often writing for me is, it's very, very much a part of my nature as a witch. Writing is utterly sacred to me, and I flow into the moment, and I get out of my egoic brain and my analytical brain, and I get into the deeper water of that metaphysical goodness that needs to come through. So for me, it's very, very ordinary to do that. And I just straight up wrote to her. I was just like, I don't know whether or not now is the time. There's a lot on my mind. I'm aware that it might not be a good moment to be in receipt of wisdom. What do you think? Should I come to you later, or is it likely that I'm going to kind of like be putting blocks in my own way to receive this wisdom? She gave me a rune. In response, the rune was North Is, and for a lot of you that understand about runes, you're going to know that that is often the rune of need. It is how we see it, and there's a lot more, layers to it, but essentially, immediately I knew straight away that she was like, you need it now. You are in requirement, and I'm willing to assist, but you have to be prepared to get what you need, not only what you want. So don't come to me later if you're going to want a nice little polished veneer on it. But if you're ready to receive what you are in need of, then come back later. And she gave me some details, that cheekily she was like, come back later and light your working candle, light up the altar and be ready for me, and I'll be there, So yeah, you get lots of little hits of intuition when you do this. You start to write things down or record things that you're very, very sure that that's part of it, and it didn't come out of any rune book. And it's not about that. It's about your vibration. It's about how you feel it in your vibration, and how the energy signature between you and the being that you have such a relationship with is working, right? And only you and the being can understand that. It's your private world, which is something that is so magical about the process. And so, yeah, it was very potent. And I went back later and I channeled. I used runes. I connected with that energy. I was in that energy signature that we've created together over so long. I was asking my questions and I was in receipt of answers, and it was something so powerful. And I wanted to share this with you guys because I think sometimes we put a lot of shit in our own way when it comes to like, well, when would I do it and how would I do it and would it be worthwhile, and will I be setting up obstacles to actually receiving the wisdom, and how do I know that it's just ask the being. And sometimes I will ask hell. I'll just be like, I'm not really sure whether or not I can be in receipt of wisdom. Is it the right moment? Do I need to wait for more things to come to light? What is your view? And she will clearly say, you need to wait. And for any of you who watched my video about the 10 most important things that hell has taught me, I will leave it down below if you haven't seen it. But for those of you that have seen it, you're going to know that hell is incredible with the art of sacred delay. That is something that she's taught me so much about. She's taught me so much about patience, so much about sacred fucking delay, about like waiting for the moment, not rushing, not being clumsy with the use of time and energy, and being very conscious of when you're going to put your attention on something. When is it going to have the most impact? And are you coming to it from a place of needy, sort of like tripping over your own feet haste, or are you coming at it from a place of like, now is the moment and I will strike now because the moment is now, right? It is upon me. So she's really, really clever with delay. She has very much kind of like a high priestess vibe to her in that regard. She does not see delay as something that should be an inconvenience or that we need to deal with. She sees it as absolutely a living teacher, and she's given me so much that mentality. So sometimes she will say, you're not ready. You're not ready. You need to wait for things. Things are only half baked in the oven. Why are you trying to take it out and eat it? Don't do that right now. You have to sit with what is unfolding. But last night she was like, yeah. Yep. Roll up. What is it you got? Just get it all out on the table. And I feel like I just like tipped over a rucksack of shit and just like just chucked it all out everywhere. And she was like, right, okay. So yeah, it was super powerful. But I guess what I'm trying to say is you don't need to overthink it. You don't need to overfeel it. You need to really sometimes just ask the being. Just be like, is now the time? you know, because I'm not really sure. I might be in my ego about it. I might be in my insecurity about it. What's coming through from your perspective on this? Very, very wonderful things happen when you ask for these kinds of answers and when you hold an openness in your heart for these answers. And if things are coming through and you don't know what they mean and you're not really sure whether to take them on or whether they're just distractions or blips or just like fragments of poetry that are coming together in your brain or whatever, don't worry about it. Just write it down anyway, or just speak it aloud into your voice recorder anyway, or commit it to memory anyway, however you do things. Because actually a lot of stuff comes to light later. It's a little bit like if anybody knows what it's like to analyze your dreams. Sometimes you write a dream down and you think, what the living shit? Okay. And then later you think to yourself, oh, I know what it is. I know. And you come back to your notes and you kind of like write up the analysis, or you just like confirm for yourself that that is what something meant in the end. And it can be like that with channeling too. So don't worry about it. Let it come through you. There has to be a kind of like an emptiness that acts as a receptacle for what is coming through. And it's almost like sometimes you're in receipt of raw ingredients, but it's not going to come together into a winning recipe until some point afterwards. But you trust the raw ingredients that are being fed into the system and into your consciousness, into your awareness, and you go with that and then you piece it together later. And it's glorious. I think the reason I'm talking about my encounter with hell last night and the long conversation that we had, it was more than an hour's worth of just full on being in the moment, channeling, just like paying attention and really being enriched by what came through. The reason I'm talking about that particular instance was because it was just like one of those flawless times. One of those fucking flawless moments, right? No interruptions. It was the middle of the night when I came back to her because my last client last night was at 11 p.m. So coming to her was like, you know, late. There was like no sound outside, no dogs barking, no seagulls making noise. I felt like the town was asleep. And it just felt like I was walking through her orchards with her. And I love that feeling. I love that feeling of like, that we're just walking around and she's giving me counsel and it's like I've fully visited, you know? I know sometimes it can be this worrying feeling of like, well, what about if I don't like what comes through? What about if what comes through is something that I don't agree with or something that I wasn't expecting, or it frightens me, or I feel like I have to act on it or whatever. And I think that kind of relationship is built over time, sooner preferably rather than later, but it's built over time whereby you can understand that the deity understands you, or the being, whatever being or force of nature you're working with has an understanding with you. You're in collaboration, that it's not a domineering connection unless that is something that you are aware that you want. You know, if you want a deity that's going to come in and be like, override those insecurities you have, all those feelings that you can't do it, like I'm telling you to do it, so do it now, I know you can do it, right? If you have brought that kind of relationship into your reality because you were ready for it and you knew that that was what you needed as a witch, then fine. And it's not something that I would ever respond to. And the beings that I work with know that. They know that I am, you know, every inch the Sagittarian head case, okay? You're not going to be able to give me advice like that. I'm just going to put my foot down, okay? My rebel archetype is so much to the front. There's just like no denying that or getting around that. But really for me, I feel like, yeah, hell does tell me things I need to know. She does say things to me that I have not been able to say to myself. You know, she does. And that is part of the reason that there is such a richness and a closeness to our connection. And there's a humor to it. Over time, you begin to develop this humor, and many of you will understand exactly what the fuck I'm saying with this. And that's why I love having this channel, because you know, you see me like that, right? You can understand because you do the same things. In many cases, we have these same calibers of experiences. But there's so much this incredible humor that is built up between you and a being that you work with over time and that you consistently dedicate yourself to and come into closeness with and interact with. And hell has that sense of humor. Last night, something happened. While I was channeling, something material happened in my reality. I don't know whether or not I should explain it. No, I won't explain it. No, it's private. It's secret. It's private gnosis. But something happened and it was extremely related to a myth about Loki. Like literally Loki, high key. anyone who works with Loki, if I told you this story and you understand, anyone who understands the myths around Loki and the stories around Loki, there is a specific story that takes place. What happened was related to it ridiculously, to the point where I was shocked. I was like, and then I laughed and I was like, because obviously Loki is so significant, right, in my deity paradigm, because he's Hell's father. So I was really like, okay, I'm just going to put that in my pocket for a second because I'm doing something here that's really weighty and has a lot of gravitas. I need to concentrate. But at the end, I'm going to come back and I'm going to ask her, what are the chances that Loki was trying to get my attention there? Because, I mean, like a lot of Sagittarians, I'm a Loki fangirl. Okay, like, come on. I mean, you know, can you imagine me not being? There's a lot to me that is very sort of like, I'm intrigued. Anyway, when at the end of our communication, just before we kind of signed off from each other, and I sadly came back to full reality, I said to her, can you give me some information about what was going on there and whether or not Loki might be present? And she gave me the weird rune, the blank rune, and I laughed out loud. I was holding it between my hands for the longest time before I looked at it. So I instinctively I'm guided to what I need. I hold it between my hands. I say certain prayers. I visualize certain things. And then I reveal the rune and I channel. I don't stop. I don't wait. I go straight into channeling. The rune and I are connected. There's no wall between us. We're in the same room. Because I know that is like a personal handwritten letter. And so I've got to really connect with my feeling as I'm reading the letter, right? The rune is the letter. But when I opened my hand and it was the weird rune, which I didn't even remember if I had in this particular set, because sometimes I take it out, sometimes I leave it in. I'm a bit funny with the blank rune because there's a rune that does the same sort of job, but not quite the same job. Anyway, I laughed. I turned it over first because I was like, oh, it's and then I was like, oh my God, it's the weird rune. That is so funny. I found that really amusing. I was just like, yeah, that makes total sense. And the thing is, I knew she was going to do something like that. I knew she was going to say, eyes down, pay attention. Never mind about him. I'm trying to say something to you here. And the thing is, it's such a Lokian rune. I know a lot of people associate it with Odin, which is also interesting because the thing that happened to me could have been Odin related, which is a further sign that it was probably Loki, because you're fucking with me, right? Because the weird rune is often also called Odin's rune. It was just, there were layers of hilarity to it, that if you're not a witch and you don't fuck with the Norse pantheon and you don't understand the myths, you're not going to understand. This is a really specialist type of humour. But for me, it was just like, oh, wow, okay, that is so Lokian. It's also so connected to Odin, which could be Loki fucking with me. And it's also Hell being like, never mind about that. That's not a thing that you need to know. Because for anybody that doesn't understand the weird rune, for a lot of people, when they receive the weird rune or the blank rune, they often stop the entire reading because it means that nothing else can be gleaned. You are not supposed to know. The mystery with a capital M is bigger than anything that you could be inquiring into with this rune. So some people, when they get the weird rune, they'll just be like, stop. You have enough. And because it was the very last rune that I pulled, it was a random extra question about like, hey, is your daddy around? Because I feel like that might be the case. And for her to give me the weird rune was just, it was such a moment of intimate closeness on what felt like an intellectual level. I really felt like I was sat sparring with a god. And they were saying, I know what you're trying to do and I know what he's trying to do, but we got to focus here. I need your sword sharp. So let's just get in the game. We'll come back to that at another point. You are astute to ask the question, but let's not worry about that answer. And it's just, you can have these moments of like just such intense communion that add so much to your life. They just make you a sharper and more aware and more joyful and more connected, more engaged, more plugged in person. That is what witchcraft has done for me. And I know that sometimes people might come across videos like this by witches and they might be like, these people are mad as a box of frogs. Like, what are you talking about? You spoke with a goddess through a rune. And it's like, yeah, but it keeps me sane, honey, you know? There are a lot of people right now doing something to try to obtain this same amount of joy and adjustment and stability that is not getting them anywhere at all. They're in a cul-de-sac. They're either in a chemical cul-de-sac or a relationship cul-de-sac. Something ain't working. And I'm telling you that for me, this is incredibly effectual. So whatever you think of it and however much you can dive in to believing that it is enriching for me, is okay. It's okay. I can take that. I can go with it. I can move with it, because I know that for me, it's just, there's so many other rooms in my house, you know, that I barely take anybody. I rarely talk about this stuff. I rarely expect that this stuff is going to be understood. And that's fine. But there is something like so potent about experiences like that. And if you've ever had experiences like that, you will know what I mean, that there is just a humor. There is so much else as well that I would love to talk about, particularly about last night's session. But I think just in general, I'd love to be able to talk about this more. So let me know if you want a video on that, because I'm going to leave my blanket fort now and I'm going to go for a little walk. I don't know what kind of weather we're having today. It's not looking too great, but actually I think that's good in terms of like the earth needs rain right now in sunny old England. So overcast is fine, but yeah, I think it's time for me to get some fresh air. I've been really ill for a few days. Not like, you know, cancel my clients ill. I have some health issues right now that are being dealt with. So, and I was really struggling with it yesterday, and I knew that I would wake up this morning feeling better. I knew that I was coming out of a cycle of feeling not so good with the body stuff, and I'm actually feeling amazing this morning. Like, I knew that when you know the wave of pain is going to break and you're going to love feeling it recede, and it's just going to feel so high vibe. That's where I am right now. So let's make the most of it. Let's go outside. You know what, darlings? It's so rainy and grey out there. Let me just show you some of the witchy books I'm excited about at the moment instead. I'm late to the Cape Frula party, but I finally purchased Magick at the Crossroads, The Devil in Modern Witchcraft. I'm excited to see what she says about the devil as an archetypal symbol of the rebel and how that connects to witchcraft in her experience, and talking about herbs and flowers that represent the devil and all of the different stories and symbols that we need to understand to make the connection between the devil and the craft. I also grabbed her other book as well, of Blood and Bones, working with shadow magic in the dark moon. I definitely think this one's going to be a piece of me. It talks about working with dark moon energy, you know, all of the kind of shadow magic aspects of witchcraft, working with graveyard dirt, performing spells to assist the crossing of a dying loved one. There's a lot in here that isn't written about as much in other books, and I think it's going to be really interesting to get her perspective and dive into some of those darker, meatier parts of the subject. I just began reading Glamour Magic, The Witchcraft Revolution to Get What You Want by Deborah Castellano. I really love the tone of this one, guys. It's fizzy, it's exciting, it's engaging. There are tons of excellent experiments and exercises to help you bring glamour magic into the center of your craft, to be unafraid of wanting something fiercely and going out there and using glamour magic to get it. So very inspiring so far, encourages you to use glamour as your secret weapon. I also couldn't resist Marie Bruce's book, Glamour Magic, Enchantments to Build Confidence and Beauty, because if you look at it, don't you think it's got such a kind of like late 90s vibe to it? I remember a lot of these kinds of books coming out in the sort of late 90s, early 2000s, and so there's something quite like throwback and exciting about this. There's lots of suggestions for spells, baths and potions in this one to manifest your dreams, and it just makes me feel really like cutesy and girly, this one, I think. Guys, who else loves Hellbore magazine? I absolutely adore it. It started publishing in 2019, and every single issue is just like a fully fledged book. If you're interested in things like English magic, British occultism, folk horror, folk magic, like legends and all that kind of thing, you're gonna love Hellbore. Get into it. I will leave the website down below. This is the unearthing issue and the ritual issue, and honestly, it just puts me in an incredible mood every time I open an issue of Hellbore. Get into it for sure. I absolutely adore zines, and I met earlier this year an artist called Kamila, who is a Polish artist based in Wales, and I got a couple of amazing zines from Kamila. This one is about Slavic mythology, and it really goes deeply into the folklore and the different Slavic myths. And I also got The Girl of Moss and Rock, this beautiful story of intergenerational bonds. It has a gay granddad in it, and it also has a delicious Polish soup recipe in it, guys. So it's just super heartwarming. I'm going to leave Kamila's details down below. They go by Pigeon online, so check out the Instagram, check out the website. Amazing work. If you love a magical reference book, might I recommend Daily Magick by Judica Ills, Spells and Rituals for Making the Whole Year Magical. This basically gives you relevant spells and relevant ingredients and stuff to do for every single day of the year. It features information on deities, spirits, saints, feast days, rituals, potions, recipes to assist with all kinds of things, so you're never lost with what to do on any single day of the year. If you're someone that likes a little bit of an edgier coffee table book, you might want to go for Symbols of the Occult by Eric Scharlein. I mean, it's a directory of over 500 signs, symbols, and different icons, exploring the most sacred signs and symbols in the world with a beautiful visual directory. So there's just loads of powerful symbolism in here. The illustrations are cool. You can find stuff for your spells, or you can just learn something different, you know? So it's just a really nice book for the collection, I think, this one. As a professional card slinger and a massive tarot enthusiast, I love Taschen's tarot book from their Library of Esoterica. You've got so many historical decks in there, modern decks, tons of different imagery to look at, and great information about the different decks that are featured. I really love the depth of the colour and the vividity in the illustrations. I love the paper, I just love the way it looks, and I love diving into it. And as I do, it becomes kind of like a meditation on the meaning of tarot and the journey that it's taken through the decades, you know, as it's come towards me and made my life so beautiful and enriching. This is Ella Harrison's Book of Spells, 150 Magical Ways to Achieve Your Heart's Desire. Really beautifully illustrated, lovely to thumb through and just get lost into the vibes. But also there's loads of really useful, simple rituals in there for protection and banishment, empowerment, self-dedication, lots of incantations, folk charms for good fortune. And every single spell offers really simple steps, you know, to help you to enhance different areas of your life. I really enjoy this one, and I love books like this. They're just so enchanting and they are just so special. I've had the Occult, Witchcraft and Magick book by Christopher Dell for quite a few years now. It's a doorstop. It's a juicy big hardback that was bought for me as a birthday present by a friend, and it contains loads of spellbinding facts about esoteric knowledge from Stone Age to Mesopotamian astrology, Freemasonry, magic in the modern world. You've got tarot stuff in there. You've got alchemy. You've got magical creatures. You know, there's stuff about the druids. There's stuff about magical locations. There's love magic stuff, amulets, folk magic. So it really does run the gamut. There's a lot of different info in there. Again, nice for a flick through, but also cool to really sort of sink your teeth into if you're looking for something new to research. Finally, darlings, I just want to rave about The Extraordinary History of Witches by Hazel Atkinson, with beautiful illustrations by Camellia Pham. I love this one. It journeys across the world and kind of takes you into different witchcraft from different areas of the world. It does delve into the witch trials, but it also talks about contemporary witchcraft, social media witchcraft, and the link between witchcraft and politics. So for something that just looks like a beautiful little, you know, ornate book that's not going to go very far into things, it actually really impressed me. And funnily enough, I also think it would be really good for a younger person who's just getting into the craft and wants to understand more about witchcraft and its place in the world today. So I just really love this one. So there you go, a little tour through some of the stuff on the bookshelf, my darlings. I hope you enjoyed this little interlude there. What do you want from your witchcraft? For me, I want closeness. I want my practice to feel warm and friendly. I don't want it to overwhelm me. I don't want to feel like I need to do too much to get ready to witch, or be in a great mood, or have all the housework done before I can start. I don't want to feel like my witchcraft requires me to be in a perfect state, fresh, confident, inventive, purposeful. I actually need to witch when I don't feel that way too. So I've carved a path that lets me in all the time. I can access my spirituality from wherever I am. There are no locks on the doors and nothing I need to prove before I can reach for the many benefits provided by magic, ritual, divination, astral work, deity devotion, or anything else that's calling me. I definitely don't want my witchcraft to feel like work all the time, like it's going to require so much more effort than I'm capable of. I've been a professional witchcraft mentor for years now, and one of the conversations I have with practitioners fairly regularly is the one about feeling intimidated by witchcraft because it can end up draining you even more and leaving you even more lost and tired than you were before. Why does that happen? Is it really a foregone conclusion that witchcraft will take something from you? Does it really require tons of energy and effort? Is it really an activity that requires self-sacrifice when you've already sacrificed more than enough in other areas of your life? Some practitioners end up feeling distant from magic and ritual because they don't see themselves as having enough power, energy, time, focus, or motivation to give witchcraft as much as it deserves. We can end up feeling like we're not good enough or potent enough to be witches. But why do we ever convince ourselves that witching is like a job we're trying to avoid or a task we keep delaying? Witchcraft should provide you with power, not take it from you. Witchcraft can be the place you go to feel calm and rested, rather than being just another thing that makes you feel tired and stressed. I remember when I realised that making too many grand plans and pressuring myself to do all the stuff I thought I should do as a witch was pulling me away from the craft. It was making me resentful. I grew more distant from my practice, and then I felt bad about staying away from it. I started to think about what kinds of activities I genuinely feel called to when I'm low on spoons or I can't seem to get my head in the game. I thought about the stuff that makes me feel more empowered afterwards and the stuff I never regret doing. I realised that I love being an art witch. I love seeing zero difference between my artistry and my sorcery. I love tarot readings. I love writing love letters for my future self. I love playing with my tools in a casual, informal way to see where my intuition will guide me to go and what will happen next, rather than following a stringent plan. I love spontaneity, I love play, I love colour, I love prayer. I remember realising that my altar is a charging station. It dawned on me that I can go there to get some vibrancy and drop off some worry. I can witch myself into a surplus of energy. I can reinterpret sacred space as a place of solace and calm, rather than always thinking it's a place that demands brilliance and focus. I remember a specific time in my life when I began to actually trust witchcraft, finally. I stopped imagining that I was somehow supposed to turn up with my shit together, my energy glowing, and my ideas flowing, as if I was trying to ace an important interview. I stopped trying to get myself in the mood to witch. Because honestly, fuck that. I witch in whatever mood I'm currently experiencing, and I choose the activities that resonate with me in that mood. I choose the things that are going to help me. I choose the activities that I know are going to give me something. They're going to inspire me. They're going to calm me down. I'm not putting on a show. I'm in the midst of a living practice that shapes itself to me and gives me whatever I require. Of course, we want to be dedicated to witchhood. But why should dedication include pushing through reluctance, fear, and uncertainty all the time? Why should witchcraft be another area of life that seems to be filled with punishment and obligation? And why should we honour the exact plans that we made weeks ago if we actually feel like doing something totally different right now? Why should witches ignore their intuitive sense that something needs to be done differently in the moment, so that it feels restorative, or clarifying, or empowering, or, goddess forbid, joyful? What do you want from your witchcraft? When was the last time you asked yourself that question? What's the answer? Okay, darlings, let me take you on a walk I've taken many times before in my life. We're going to visit one of my local parks, and in order to do that, we're going to walk past a gorgeous harbour, a deliriously lovely shoreline, and through some details of everyday life that I strive to pay attention to as I go along. As I'm walking today, I'm turning a few things over in my heart. One of them is the therapy session I had on this particular morning. A dramatic therapy session, to say the least, guys. I was breaking open and confronting some of the lesser visited parts of myself. I might be in a local environment on this walk, but I was certainly in unfamiliar psycho-spiritual territory during therapy, that is for sure. And it is so calming to do some of that processing outside while the birds are wailing in the sky and people are sunbathing on the sand. I take in the variety of colours and sounds and I weave them into the healing that's already happening within myself. I'm also focusing a lot on gratitude, and principally it's gratitude for all of you. It's gratitude for the channel that I've been uploading to for over a decade now. Gratitude for the comments that I receive from you guys. Comments that are so much more than just you telling me that you like my videos, which is lovely enough, but you're also telling me parts of your life story, the challenges you've been through, the ideas that you've nurtured, the spells that you've done, the experiences you've enjoyed most in your witchhood and beyond. It's so meaningful to gradually build this audience of like-minded people who share a certain vibe and have an outlook in common, an outlook on magic and an attitude to life. I've drawn so much inspiration from so many of you, and I like to think that I've been consistently willing to give that back from a place of thanks. So thank you so much for being my subscribers, my commenters, my clients, my fellow artists, my partners in crime. It really does mean so much to me. This vlog is very much intended to be a little sort of like haven of inspiration for you on your journeys, and I think one of the reasons it's such a privilege for me to be able to give you that any way that I can is because many people in this world are just so fucking burdened by prejudice, and many people make it other people's problem. You know, they raise people with prejudice, they reject people because of their prejudice. And there's absolutely no doubt that some of the prejudice that I've experienced, and I know many others have, is because of our witchhood. It's because of our spirituality, it's because of our beliefs. And so I actually think pride in witchhood is a really important thing. And I like to think these little sort of moments where we talk about how celebratory we can be about our paths and how excited we are about what we're doing can serve as a kind of antidote to some of that prejudice and some of those feelings of rejection and marginalization that happen. And I know it's going to be different, you know, sort of like levels of that depending on where you are in the world, depending on who you are in your body, depending on your other identities and the cross sections of those identities. So I'm not saying that we have it all the same by any means. And certainly I've had it easy, you know. I'm a public witch with books about witchcraft for one, so you can tell in a way that I've had it easy. But also, you know, the writing of the books and the promoting of the books and putting myself out there as a witchcraft teacher has made me a little bit of a sticking post for other people's shadows over the course of time. So I have dealt with that aspect of things, being a public witch and seeing how easy it is to project onto me everything negative that you might wish to project onto me and dealing with that. So everybody's journey is so different with this, but I think pride in witchhood is a really special thing, and I love to see it. I love to see people embrace their witchhood. I love to see people embrace their linear traditions. I love to see people embrace their chaos traditions that they just made up yesterday. You know, I just really like that feeling that we are enjoying this. We are getting something actually joyful and ecstatic out of it. And a lot of the work that we do as part of our witchcraft is not intended to be joyful and ecstatic. It is hard. It is about collective justice. It is about breaking down of personal conditioning, and it's about doing personal shadow work. But a lot of it also is about ecstasy. And I really love that about being able to make videos like this and put out messages like this. You know, it's kind of that reminder in a way. Okay, I'm going to crack a ginger beer like you do on a hot sunny day in England. Thank you, Jamaica, for bringing this to us. My appreciation runs deep. Okay, so one thing I wanted to say about my own good time with witchcraft, so like the positive time, the time where I feel hype about it, is when I come across an issue that I used to have in my path and I totally know how to deal with it now. And I remember the time previously, sometimes years ago, because I've been a witch for many years, I remember a previous time where I didn't have access to that insight. I didn't have that information. I struggled with the problem. And I see that like, oh, now as it's coming up again, I'm fine. I have the tools. I understand the mindset that I need to adopt. Just for instance, like, you know, if hell disappears for a long time and I don't get any signs and I don't get any sort of like inspiration to go to her and I don't feel like there's anything that we need to say to each other or things go a bit quiet, I completely and fully and totally understand and embrace that part of the journey now. Whereas before, there were times in the past, obviously, where I didn't embrace that. And I get emails and comments from people saying to me, Kellyanne, I think my deity's breaking up with me. I don't know what to do. I haven't heard from them. We had this really close connection and now it's all kind of gone. I don't know if I did something wrong. I feel grief. You know, what should I do? Which is totally valid questions. I'm definitely not knocking the questions. But it's really weird that over time, or it's really wonderful that over time, you just get into this habit of realizing that like that's the flow of the connection and that is the deity's wisdom. And that is what needs to happen next. And it, you know, could represent many different things. And it could be something that eventually you see is completely enriching to you and enlivening to you, right? That like this deity took their leave of you for quite a long time, or the deity changed shape, or other deities came in or whatever. And when I have my quiet times with hell, it makes sense. It makes all the sense in the world to me now. Like I get it and I embrace it. I understand it. And it's okay. When spells used to fail, oh my goddess, guys, there was a time in the past where spells used to fail. Like I could not get a spell to work, or I didn't understand why things were falling flat. And I felt so shitty about it. I felt so much like this is a really workable, doable spell. You know, this isn't me as one witch trying to do a spell for world peace, right? Where I know that I'm only going to be able to take one little chip out of the wall. There's absolutely no way I'm going to be able to take the whole thing down. There are too many variables against me. No, this is the kind of spell where it's like, I should nail that spell. And I haven't done so for whatever reason. I used to get insecure about that. I used to get sad about it. I used to feel like there's no point doing spellcraft. I just used to be really, ugh. There was so much going on, right, in my being about that. Whereas now I see the absolute wisdom in it. It's like when I used to send off short stories for publication to magazines and stuff and poems. Don't look for me, by the way. I was under a completely different name when I was doing that. But I used to do that quite often. And I remember when I would get published, it would feel amazing. But when I wasn't accepted and it was a rejection, I didn't mind that. I felt like it legitimized me as a writer, that I was getting these, like, you know, rejections, because it demonstrated that I was truly doing it. I was living the life I always wanted to live as a kid. I was sending my work out for publication. And yes, some of it was rejected, of course. I mean, if you've ever read my poetry, it's kind of weird, guys. I'll leave my poetry IG for you down below if you want to sample it. But yeah, it was just very much this sense of like, it's okay that I'm being rejected, because the rejections are symbols of my effort and they are symbols of the legitimacy of the path that I'm taking, which is the path of wanting my work to be visible, actually seeking eyeballs for my work and sharing it with community, right? And so I started trying to put that also towards how I felt about my spellcraft, that like, it's not that the spell failed and that means I should go into a spiral of insecurity. The spell failed and that's a fucking Tuesday. Like, that is what happens with witches. Sometimes things rise in the oven, sometimes they don't. Sometimes we have to, you know, go in a different direction or see what else can be done or understand why it failed and all of that, you know. And if this is resonating with you, by the way, I have made a video about what to do when spells fail or why your spells might be failing. So I will leave that down below for you so you can go over and watch that. But yeah, it's almost like it legitimizes me as a witch, right? Failure is not a sign that I should stop witching. It's a point of celebration that I am witching and that things are happening and not happening, and I'm failing and succeeding and learning and expanding and all of that. So even in terms of mentality, even in terms of mindset, guys, I'm in such a different place than I was before. And the more you grow with your witchcraft, the more you will start to see those incredible progressions. And it just feels so good. And it's such a beautiful thing to get to celebrate in your journey as you go forward. Legitimacy in your path is something that you can actually allow people to take from you. You can allow people and their big opinions to override what it is that you instinctively know to be true about your path and about the power of it and how much it means to you. And I just want to say that there were no birds making noises and nobody walking dogs before I started filming. Just as life. That's just like what life is about. Anyway, yeah, so basically what I was saying was you can allow people to delegitimize your path, make you feel small, make you feel like you should second guess yourself. When you see yourself doing that, don't do that. Step into your ruler energy, right? Your queen energy, king energy, sovereign energy, ruler energy, and know that like you are the person that is the ruler of the kingdom. You know, the kingdom is yours, and it is not for you to cut the edges off of it and make it into a polite shape or apologize for it or justify it or anything else, right? It is absolutely your show. You are running the show. You sign off on what happens. And sometimes we can just get this insecure sense, especially if we're wild and we're chaotes, right? If we're chaos practitioners, if we're very eclectic, if we're doing something that is just like very, very connected to ourselves, to our personal mythology, to the kingdom inside of us where nobody else can ever go. We can have this very strong feeling that like, damn, you know, there's no foundation to this. This is very will-o'-the-wisp of me. This is very, you know, maybe it's reckless or maybe it's just silly or whatever. And we really have to come away from that, put that down, reject that completely. That does not have to be the case, and you do not have to feel that about what you do. But one thing that I will say is that what makes you feel more legitimate in a practice that is highly creative, extremely sovereign, nobody else on earth does it the way you do it. It's got a lot of your own ideas in it, right? The way to feel that that is legitimate and that is meaningful is to do it. If you sit on the sidelines and you think, I can't do that because it's not real or it's not serious or it's not what others are doing or whatever, you're never going to be able to see the payoff, right? You only see the payoff through the practice of the thing that you have created. And that is why I'm so confident in my witchcraft now, because I have allowed it to prove to me time after time after time that it is the thing I ought to be doing and it is the way I ought to be practicing. I have this incredible friend called Ian who has known me for some years now and really gets me, actually. And he sent me the other day, the funniest thing, he sent me an excerpt from an obituary from an earl, about an earl from the 1800s. Earl Russell, his name was, and apparently he was quite the eccentric. As you can imagine, a lot of earls are. They had the money to be as eccentric as they wanted to be, right? And basically in this obituary, the person writing it is explaining all these funny fucking stories about, you know, Earl Russell. And apparently one time Earl Russell was explaining that he made a pair of trousers out of string, and he pointed to them hanging up on a hook and he said, I made those trousers out of string. I didn't have a pattern for them and I didn't really know what I was doing, so I just had to keep trying them on. You know, I had to keep making a bit and then trying it on and then making another bit and then trying it on. And my friend Ian sent this to me and said, I feel like you're always trying your string trousers on. In other words, I feel like you're a person who doesn't have a pattern. They just have a lot of colourful string and faith, you know. You're a person that like would do something like this. You are a person that just goes for it. And I found it funny and I found it really complimentary. And the reason I bring that up is because actually that's a lot of what is happening in my spiritual practice. And I think for a lot of you, it's the same too. We work on colourful string and faith, not so much on pre-existing patterns and rules and traditions and ways of doing things, but more on like what can be created, you know, and how much faith am I going to have in that process and how much can I enjoy myself during that process? And actually sometimes like intentionally how wild and like out of the ordinary and once in a lifetime can I make this process? Can I do something that's never been done? Can I do something that fits my particular equation and really brings me to like the, I don't know, intellectual, emotional and spiritual throne of my own realm? So it's eccentricity and it's creativity and it's trying things and seeing what sticks. And it's that feeling that like this is a perfect playground in which to do that, right? And I'm not sitting here saying, oh, spirituality isn't serious and I don't take my spirituality seriously. But to me, play is a form of devotion. Play is a really acute and necessary form of devotion. And I have never seen hedonism as just a form of escape or a form of spiritual drunkenness with no real meaning to it. And I don't think that joy is just recreational. I think it's restorative. And with everything I've been through in my life, it's probably not that surprising that I think that way. And so I do try to make my witchcraft into a place that is heady with joy, and where I really feel like I can experiment and be myself and try things and clap excitedly, let the inner child into the room and let her decide sometimes what's going to happen next. I do want my spiritual path to feel a bit Alice in Wonderland, and I do want it to feel a little bit labyrinth, you know. I do want to find my way to the Goblin City and all that jazz. I do want it to feel like a quest and a mission, and also a party and a secret garden. I do want it to have that feeling to it of like intrigue and something wild, you know. I want to know that I could meet the Mad Hatter and the March Hare. I do have a vested interest in making sure that things feel the way they feel when I'm at my most enchanted. And, you know, I feel like tumbling down those rabbit holes or finding those cities or castles or secret hidden places is a really important part of what I have managed to achieve. It's not just that I have, you know, focused so much on my healing, and I've focused so much on my deconditioning, and I've focused so much on my discipline and my improvement and my growth and my strength and my sovereignty, my boundaries, you know, getting the relationships healthy and where they need to be, getting the work where it needs to be, as a tarot reader, as an author, whatever. It's also just purely that I had fun, you know, like, that's also important. That's also something that comes up when I think about what I most want to be able to look back and see that I've achieved, is that it was a good time, you know, and nobody can take that from me. And if things feel a bit stale or things feel a little bit like meh, that's something that I want to take as a push to put some new inspiration in there, get something else in the water. What haven't you done that you might want to look into? What could you link to Magick that you've never linked to it before? I was just reading a copy of Dazed magazine. I was thinking to myself, if this magazine was the only spiritual tool I had, and it was the only like sacred text that I had, it was the only thing that defined for me what it is to be a magician, what would my practice look like? If I made this copy of Dazed magazine sacred right now, what would it tell me about the direction I need to take as a magician? And it was so interesting to look at a magazine that way. And you can look at anything that way. I taught a workshop a while ago about chaos magic. Hello to all of my workshop attendees, by the way. People have asked me if they can, you know, buy the playback of the workshops. I will be putting out some kind of package where you can buy all of the playbacks at some point. So yeah, I taught a chaos magic workshop, and one of the things that I had people do as an exercise was, I want every single person in this workshop now to look to your left and identify an object that is to your left. Okay, you see the object, you get it in mind, right? Now, I want you to imagine that that object is your personal God. That object is your deity. That object is literally the being from which you take some of your highest wisdom and your deepest insight and your most stringent encouragement. Let's write about that. Write down what it means now that this tea caddy or this broken clock or this kid's toy or this dog bowl or whatever is your God. And to me, that's a really, really good example of what I try to do in my magical life and what I'm always striving for. I want to believe that anything could at any moment be the absolute next spark of my spiritual inspiration. So it's just beautiful to be able to do that. And I often do that with stuff like I just did with my Dazed mag. It's just a really like beautiful, challenging, interesting, cool thing to do. So I wanted to mention that because I think we can get very locked into like what is in the witchcraft books and what is in the witchcraft toolkit, and you know, what is it that we do? What do we do as witches, and what should I do being that I am a witch? And it's like, yeah, but you're also an artist, and you're also, you know, a parent if you're a parent, or you're also like an engineer, or you're also like a recovering addict, or you're also whatever it is you are. You're so many things. You're a Floridian. Is that how you call people that come from Florida? Get at me in the comments. Or you're Texan, or you're, you know, wherever you're from, you're from somewhere that has dictated your situation, or you're someone that's struggled with a certain thing, or you're someone that's achieved a certain thing, you're someone that's been through a certain thing, you understand certain pathways that the person to the left of you or right of you might not understand. Maybe you've been mad, you know, maybe you've been injured, whatever it is. There's all these things that make it so that you can have just this most intensely sovereign experience. Why are we just thinking about what's in the books and what's in the repertoire, you know, what's on the buffet table for witches? We've got all these types of magic, we've got different types of ritual, we've got different types of divination. Sure, okay, fair enough. But what about like something like getting the magazine you're reading and deciding that that is your sacred text and it's going to direct you into your next working, or it's going to tell you the answer to the question that you've been craving an answer to, or whatever. So it's more explorative, it's more expansive, and it's this sense that like anything at any given moment could be my ultimate synchronicity, my absolute saving grace, my mentor, my teacher, my God. Okay, let's do a little pick a card. I do not usually do these, but we're going to do one today, okay, with the Rosebud Tarot, which I absolutely adore. I love this. This is one of my newer ones in my collection. It's a collage deck and it's amazing. I've got a very bouncy blanket where you've got all the, you know, all the grass underneath. See how bouncy it is? It's beautiful. Okay. We're going to do 3 cards, and whatever card you pick is going to tell you something enchanting and inspiring about your practice, your spiritual practice, where you are now, where you're going, all of that good stuff. All right. 1, 2, 3. All right, pick a pile. Which pile are you going with? 1, 2, or 3? You've got to use your instincts here. Take a moment. Feel into which one. This is 1, this is 2, this is 3. Which one is grabbing your fancy? Make your decision. Okay, I'm going to turn the cards over. So for those of you who got card 1, you have received 5 of fire, aka 5 of wands. 5 of fire, that's really powerful. Okay, so for all you pile 1 people, 5 of fire, you have had to fight to get to a point where you really were able to own your creativity. And sometimes you may still feel like it's a fight. And sometimes you really have to bring your determination to it, because there are things in the way. There might be conflicting ideas. There might be even conflicting identities within you that want different things from your spiritual practice. And not only that, but there are obstacles, there are excuses sometimes. There are moments of burnout or moments of lack of direction. So you have to really know that your heart is fueled with spirituality to be able to keep in the game. And for that, you can give yourself maximum credit. 5 of fire represents that you've always had some energy to bring to at least thinking spiritual thoughts, if not also engaging in spiritual practices. There is some part of you that knows that your get up and go and your zest and your sense of lust for life is sponsored at least partly by Spirituality Incorporated, okay? You know that actually it gives you an incredible amount of zest, and that zest allows you to meet your challenges with gusto. So even when other, areas of support fail you, your spiritual life is something that comes and picks you up, gets you back into the game, makes you fight for your life and the way that you want it to be, and helps you to be the visionary that you need to be to thrive in life and to make it everything that you want to make it. So this is really a moment of being able to celebrate not only your path, but the fact that you kept some energy aside for your path. And that is exactly why you're here watching such a video as this. So the proof is already in the pudding. Second pile, you guys got 3 of earth, aka 3 of pentacles. Very powerful. 3 of earth is so often about development and training, building something up, crafting something, enjoying seeing what something has become and wondering where it's going to go and what it's going to become next. This is a very powerful card because it shows you in a time of determined concentration to be the craftsperson of your own practice. You have been slowly working on your skills, slowly sharpening your capabilities and your awarenesses, slowly playing with the different materials of your spirituality to see what you might want to use to build something that really has your mark on it. There is a seriousness in 3 of Pentacles. There is a sense of taking something to a point where you grow in your sophistication. You understand something to the extent where you are reaching a new level of maturity, and you can see that maturity coming out in the way that you are in your spirituality and the results that you can see that are coming from it. Three of Earth is a symbol of your foundations and what you are building on those foundations. And it's really a moment to be able to stop and look at what you've already built and then decide what is the next brick that goes in the wall? What is the next thing that you really want to bring to your spiritual life? You might currently be in a situation where you're just about to be able to see what something could be if you continue to commit. If you really decide to put your iron in that particular fire, you know, if you say, yes, I am building this thing, I'm excited to see where it's going to go. So it's a moment where you can actually bring yourself to the art of dedication. It's a moment where you can take a vow that you started something and you are actually going to finish it. And this is a really strong sign as well for those who might have been procrastinating on a project or a working or an area of study. Now would be the time to be able to decide that, yes, I'm going to be actually a willing student. I'm going to make the commitment. I'm going to take the next step. Even if I stopped somewhere along the line before and I was procrastinating, I really acknowledge that I am a craftsman. I am a pupil. I am an eager student and I'm a willing builder. And I'm going to see what can become of this when I go back to it. And this might also be a card for you, not only in terms of your spirituality, but other areas of life too. So for example, if you know that you have an unfinished story, or you started decluttering a room to decorate it, but then you stopped, or you started a workout journey, but then you stopped that, right? Anything where you know something is unfinished. I haven't finished that fantasy book series I was reading. I haven't finished, you know, really sort of like tying up the loose ends in a certain area of my reality. You're being called to understand that you can go back and tie up the loose ends anytime you like. You don't have to convince yourself that it's too late. You don't have to convince yourself that too much else is happening and you're going into momentum in a different way. No, you can always go back and tie up those loose ends, and maybe some of them for you have deep spiritual significance. And the third pile, you guys received strength. That's a really cool card to receive for the third pile. This is a representation of how much fortitude your path has given you during some extremely challenging and testing times. It's a representation of how your spirituality has really supported you in building up the psycho-spiritual muscle that has been needed to contend with things that have been really difficult. It's also a symbol that your spiritual life has really been the making of you in terms of who you are, your identity, the balance of different qualities inside of you, and the way that you have brought yourself to a personal alchemy of building up certain aspects of you, healing or untangling different aspects of you, releasing or coming to meet different parts of you. So strength can often be about this really beautiful alchemical balancing act between different parts of yourself, and it is an unleashing of certain parts, and it's also a taming of other parts. So again, we have, just like with pile 2, this suggestion that you have been building your level of sophistication and maturity in your spiritual path, and that is really beautiful to see. One of the things that you could really be doing in your witchcraft now is sculpting yourself into a stronger or more agile shape. And I don't mean physically necessarily, although for some of you, you might have heard that and thought, I better get in the gym, especially with the fact that she's doing weights here, our beautiful muscle woman here. But really, strength can often be about crafting yourself into someone who can, someone who has the discipline, someone who has the bravery, someone who has the courage, someone who actually will be able to push through, get over their insecurities or doubts or excuses, and move into sacred action. It's being strong enough not only to hold it down during the bad times, but to be able to make the most of the good times. So when you've got a little extra energy, when you've got a little time, when you feel like things have come together in a way that's provided you with some extra zest, then use it to really sculpt yourself into the person that you want to be. If you want to be stronger intellectually, do something about it. If you want to be stronger physically, do something about it. If you want to be stronger in terms of just controlling and connecting with your sensitivity, knowing that you are deeply empathetic and you do feel things, but you don't want that to hold you back from life. Do something about it. Whereabouts do you want to sculpt yourself into a stronger individual? Whereabouts are you lacking a little bit of strength? Sometimes you wobble in a certain area and you feel like, oh, there isn't actually the muscle in that area of my reality. Witch about it. Do spellcraft about it. You are being called to understand that your instinct as a practitioner is to pursue strength across all areas. And so give yourself credit for the strength that you've already pursued. You know, you've already got some major wins in this area. Spirituality is your foundation. It is what you stand on when everything else is shaking and crumbling. So when the seas are calm and the tectonic plates are still, what do you really want to practice? What do you want to get better at? Because you really have a lot of potential to be able to use witchcraft for that right now. This was really fun, guys. Oh my gosh, we should do this more often. Darlings, the energy that I have to make videos is obviously sponsored by food, and people often ask me what I consume as a vegan witch, so I'm going to let you know right now. I never eat solid food in the morning. Usually I have a vegan protein shake or something like that, but I'm waiting on the delivery of my chocolate protein powder. So instead I'm going to have some naked green smoothie and also a ginger shot. This is a really nice way for me to start the day as someone that is really not into solid food before kind of like 1 p.m. To be honest, I never have been. But then for lunch, I'm going to have something nice and hearty. As you can see here, this is my stir fry. You can pretty much see what this is made up of. You know, I've got some lovely bits and pieces in there. Going to put some sesame seeds on for garnish, and also going to really enjoy some lovely diced spring onion on the top there too. This is great after I've seen a couple of clients or had a very rigorous emotional therapy session. I'm also going to have some fruit alongside this. I just basically like graze on fruit throughout the day, guys. That's really my thing. I had a really delicious creamy avocado that a friend brought over for me. Haven't had an avocado in a while, so this was really lovely. And you can see that I do not like mush it up into bits, you know, I really like it just chopped coarsely so I can still really get the texture. And then for dinner, I had a vegan pepper steak with beans and veggies and some delicious gravy. Thank you so much for checking out this vlog, darlings. Much love and bye for now.